Assalamu alaikum students. This is your English teacher Wahid Yousuf, and as you know that we are doing a poem that is My Mother at 66, and today would be the last lecture of this poem that is My Mother at 66. In the previous lectures, we discussed the writer, we discussed how poetic style, the poet Kamala Das, and we also read the poem and we discussed it and we critically analyze the poem as well. And as far as today's lecture is concerned, we'll be discussing the form and style of this poem. We'll be discussing the theme of this poem. We'll be discussing the poetic devices employed in the poem. And we'll discuss the message, or we can say central idea of this poem at last as well. So, starting with the form and style. See, as far as this poem is concerned, the poem My Mother at 66, it is a poem written in free verse. It is a poem written in free verse. 1 second. Yes. What it is written in free verse. That means it doesn't follow any rhyme scheme. So it doesn't follow any rhyme scheme. It is written in free verse without any rhyme scheme, and it is like a long sentence. This poem is like a long sentence. The poem My Mother at 66 is confessional. It is a confessional poem, as we have already discussed in the class where we discussed the poetic style of Kamala Das, what confessional poetry is, and how Kamala Das is a confessional poet. And this very poem is also confessional, and as such, it is a first person monologue. This poem is a first person monologue. So, what is a monologue? Monologue is a long speech by a single person. When a single person speaks, that is what monologue is. And in this poem, a single person, that is the poet herself speaks in this poem, and we don't have any other speaker present in the poem. That is how it is a monologue. So it is confessional and it is a first person monologue. That is we are the pronouns I are used in the poem. I or we can simply say if I or we in the poem is used, in any literary composition is used, we call that first person narrator, and we have here first person speaker, we can say, and it is a first person monologue, this poem. And the poet in this poem expresses her inner thoughts and her reactions to those thoughts. She comes up with her inner thoughts, and how she reacts to those inner thoughts, that is also discussed in the poem, that we also see in the poem. And as far as the language of this poem is concerned, the language is conversational. We have discussed in a poetic style of Kamala Das how she has adopted colloquial style in her poetry, and the arrangement of the liners is free and fluid. The poetic touch appears when the poet describes her mother and her old age. So, in this poem, as far as this poem is concerned, in this poem, the poet who is Kamala Das, or we can say the speaker who is Kamala Das, she first compares her mother's appearance to that of a corpse. She first compares her mother's this appearance to that of a corpse, and then she describes her mother as the winter moon, late winter moon. And in both instances, the poet alludes to the imminent death of her mother. So when she compares by using the device of simile, she compares her mother with different things. First with a dead body, and second with a late winter's moon. and it is usually a mother. In usual way we see a mother who describe their children, but in this poem a child or a daughter describes her mother. And as usual the mother describes her children as moons, but here a daughter describes her mother as moon, though she describes her as a late winter's moon. And the last lines, as far as the last lines of this poem are concerned, there is the repetition of the word, that is smile, smile, and smile, and smile, and smile. And it indicates that people helplessly display such gestures to express their true feelings for their loved ones. So this is about form and style of this poem, how this poem has been written. So this is written in first person monologue, and it is like a long sentence without using full stop, and it has no rhyme scheme at all. And this is what we call free verse. It is written in free verse, and this poem is also confessional, where the speaker of this poem confesses the old age of her mother, the approaching death of her mother. So this is all about form and style of this poem. Now coming to themes of this poem, thematic concerns of this poem. See, this is a confessional poem, and it talks about relationships, and it talks about the relationship of a daughter and her mother, daughter and her mother. And if we try to point out the themes present in the poem, we can have themes like aging, themes like fear of loss, themes like separation. These themes are like aging, themes like fear of loss and separation. These themes can be found in this poem, can be found in this poem. See, my mother at 66. If we try to bring out the themes from this poem is based on the theme of aging, or we can say advancing age. So advancing age means when a person grows older and older. And this poem is based on the theme of advancing age and the fear of loss and separation. Loss and sorry the fear of loss and separation, the fear of loss and separation. These are the two major themes: one, advancing age or aging, and another, the fear of loss and separation. And these are the very important themes associated with this poem, which are associated with this poem. And the poet undergoes a plethora of emotions when she sees her mother aging, and feels the pangs of separation at the thought of losing her. And that is how we see in the poem that she's very much concerned about the aging, about the advancing age of her mother, and she fears at the thought when she thinks that she's going to lose her mother and she's going to separate from her mother. And she must be feeling guilty of not being able to stay with her mother in her old age. She also wishes for the lost beauty and youth of her mother. So all these things are done because of aging, because of the age, because of the advancing age of her mother. The poem is written in a single sentence, which also indicates that the single thread of which also indicates the single thread of thought. So this poem being written as a single sentence, it also indicates something very important, that is, it only carries a single thought. This poem only carries a single thought, and that can be the loss of beauty and the loss of youth, loss of charm, and approaching death of her mother. So that is how it is written, in a single sentence without full stop. And when it is a single sentence, it carries a single thought throughout the lines. So that is what we can take, that single thought is loss of beauty and approaching death. That has happened to her mother. She has lost her beauty, she has lost her youth, she has lost her young age, and she has this she's going to die now, and her death is approaching. That is what the themes of this poem, or which the themes, that is the themes of this poem. So this if we try to point out them, so two themes are very much apparent in this poem. That is the advancing age. One is the advancing age or aging, and another is we can take that the loss of separation, the fear of loss and separation is another theme of this poem. And another theme, we can say, the relationship between daughter and mother. And as that theme is concerned, the poem brings out the inner thoughts of a daughter for her mother. That is the relationship, the love between a mother and a daughter and a mother. That is another theme we can take out of this poem. And now, talking about the poetic devices used in the poem, the poetic devices used in the poem. See, we have a lot of devices used in the poem. We have a simile, we have metaphor that is used in the poem, we have personification that is used in the poem, and we have this alliteration that is used in the poem. We have imagery that is used in the poem, and we have symbolism that is used in the poem. We have that technique of repetition that is used in the poem. We have that device of contrast that is used in the poem. So all these poetic devices have been used in the poem, which we shall discuss one by one with a reference to that, with reference to the poem, that is My Mother at 66. Okay. So starting with simile. So simile is a poetic device which is used to compare two dissimilar things. Two dissimilar things. And we compare these dissimilar things by employing the words such as like and as. Like and as. And there is another device by which we can compare two dissimilar things, that is metaphor, and that is employed differently. So coming to the similes which are present in the poem. See, we have two similes which are present in the poem, and the first simile is this one. Her face, sorry, her face ashen like that of a corpse. So here the poet has used these similes, and the first one is her face ashen like that of a corpse. And in this simile, the poet says that her mother's face was pale and gray, and she has lost all her strength and vitality. She has lost all her strength and vitality. And the poet compares the pale face of her mother to that of a face, to the face of the dead body. And why? Because like the face of the dead body, like the face of the dead body, her mother's face doesn't show any signs of energy, signs of youth. That is how she compares her face, her face with that of a dead body, with the face of a dead body. And as far as the second simile is concerned, that is one second, that is this. as a late winter's moon, as a late winter's moon. And she's in the second simile, she's comparing her mother, she's comparing her mother with the late winter's moon. As I already told you, we use words as and like while using simile, while using similes. One second, yes, or as and like or as. And in the first simile the word like was used, and in this simile the word as is used while comparing her mother to different things. And in this simile, the poet emphasizes the weakness of her older mother. She compares her mother's pale and dull face to the pale and dull colors of the late winter's moon. And as the late winter's moon is concerned, that she is engulfed in that fog and mist. And similarly her mother has lost her youth, she has lost her energy, she has lost her vitality, and she's also enveloped in the a old age, in the in the this in the age which is not full of energy, which is not full of youth, which is not full of vitality. And the poet compares her mother's face to a late winter's moon, and that symbolizes death and decay, just like winter loses its magnificence and beauty when covered with fog and mist. The winter's moon, that is not shiny because that is covered with fog, that is covered with mist during winter. And in the same way, her mother has no energy, she's not energetic, she's not fresh, because she's enveloped with old age. That is how she compares her mother with the late winter's moon. And second sorry second device used in the poem is this personification. As you know that personification is a device in which human attributes are provided, in which human attributes are given to inanimate objects. And we have this trees printing. It can be taken as a personification in this poem. It is used as a personification in this poem because trees cannot sprint in commons, in general sense trees cannot sprint, but the sprinting, the attribute of sprinting has been provided to trees in this poem by Kamala Das, and that is how it is a personification. So when we provide human attributes to inanimate objects, that is what personification is. Another device used in the poem is alliteration. Alliteration. Alliteration is actually a repetition of initial sounds, usually consonant sounds, in neighboring words of a poem of or a prose, of a poem or a prose. So it is simply the repetition of initial sounds, the repetition of initial sounds in neighboring words in a poetic line here. And we'll try to find out the alliterations in this poem. See, here we have this is alliteration in this poem, and this is another alliteration in this poem. So in this alliteration we have the sound s, sound s, in said, see, and sown. In said, see, and sown. All these three words, they start with the sound that is s, that is s. And we have also here smile and smile and smile. And here we have also the sound s, sound s, in smile, and then again in smile, and then again in smile. So that is the alliteration in this poem. Another device used in the poem is symbolism. And symbolism is when one thing represents another thing, when a thing represents a greater idea. That is what symbolism is. And as far as this poem is concerned, we have so many symbols used in the poem. For example, this trees sprinting. One second, sorry. Trees sprinting, it is used as a symbol. And merry children spilling out, merry children, it is used as a symbol. And late winter's moon, that is itself used as a symbol. And trees also is used as a symbol in the poem. See, this trees symbolize life and growth in this poem. These trees, sprinting trees, they symbolize life and growth in this poem. And children in this poem, they symbolize youth, vigor, and life. They symbolize energy as well. So, this is another symbol used in the poem. And the late winter's moon, the late winter's moon here, the late winter's moon that appears at the end of the year also symbolizes the ebbing state of the mother's life. As winter and moon, they combinedly symbolize death and decay, because winter brings death to everything. And that late winter's moon also implies death and decay. And see, these are the symbols used in the poem, employed in the poem by the poet. Another device used in the poem is the device of repetition. Repetition is when a poet repeats some words, some phrases, even a part of the poem, line of the poem in the poem. That is what repetition is. And in this poem, the poet at the end of the poem, she repeats the word smile. And that is why this technique of repetition has been used. When we were discussing the poet Kamala Das and her poetic style, I told you that she has employed this repetition, she has employed this device of repetition in her poetry. And here we have the example of that repetition in this poem, that is My Mother at 66. And another device is enjambment. Enjambment is a device where the concept, the thought is carried from one line to another. And in this poem, it behaves like a long sentence, and every line carries a single thought to another line, and from that line to another line. So it has been used throughout the poem, as it is a poem without a full stop, and every line is written in continuance with the other. So in this way, this poem is actually, we find the technique of enjambment used in the poem. And then we have this device of contrast used in the poem. And this device of contrast has been used in the poem, in this poem, when she talks about old age of her mother and merry children at the same time. She When she tells us, put that thought away and looked out at young trees sprinting, the merry children spilling out of their homes. So in a way, she talks about the old age of her mother, and at the same time she talks about merry children. When she looks outside the window. When she looks outside the window, she talks about merry children as well, where the children are symbolic of youth, growth, vitality, energy, freshness, and life. And her mother's old age, that symbolizes the decaying days, that symbolize the declining days, that symbolize the life without energy. So this is how contrast is made. Contrast is made between the stillness of her mother and between the busyness of those children. Contrast is made between the old age of her mother inside the car that is without any energy, and in between that children who are fresh, who are full of energy. So this is the contrast which is made in this poem. We have another device that is used in the poem, and that is polysyndeton. Actually, it is a device where unnecessary use of conjunctions are made, where a deliberate use of conjunction is made. A deliberate use of conjunction is made. For example, in this poem, we have these three words. These three words are they are used as repetition, they are used as alliteration, and they also are used as polysyndeton. And as I already told you, it is unnecessary use of conjunction. And here we have these words: smile and smile and smile. So in common language, it should have been smile, comma, smile, and smile. But she has used this conjunction and. She has used this conjunction and. One second. Here she has used this conjunction and here. So it is a deliberate attempt of using conjunction. So we see the conjunction and has been used repeatedly. However, the use of many conjunctions are put in place in the poetic lines to achieve an overwhelming effect in the lines of poetry. So this was all about poetic devices used in the poem, that is my mother at 66. So there are other devices, for example, imagery has been used in the poem. We see that winter's moon has been used as image. One second. Imagery has been used in the poem also. Winter's moon and young trees, merry children, they can be also they can be also taken as images used in the poem by the poet. And coming to the last section of this lecture, that is the central idea or message of the poem. So what we get, what message we get from the poem now. So the message we get from the poem is the concept of aging. The concept of aging. As the poem indicates that aging is an important phase of human life. A person enters his childhood, experiences youth, and when he is full of energy and dreams to have luxury of life, but finally he approaches his old age and encounters death. And this is the message which the poem gives us. And it also talks about a relationship between people becomes strong at every aspect of life, and they can't be a separation due to aging. And it also talks about, first thing it talks about is aging, and the second thing it talks about relationships, and it talks about how strong the relationships become with the passage of life. And as far as this poem is concerned, the poet relates a personal experience here. She brings out a common paradox of human relationships and portrays a sensational separation of a mother and a daughter. She also has been able to capture almost all the emotions which a daughter is filled with on bidding farewell to her beloved mother. And sometimes while reading this poem, we also feel deep sympathy for the poet and her mother, but we fail to express it in a proper manner. And same thing happened with the daughter. Same thing happened with the daughter. She also felt sympathy for her mother, but she's unable to express it in a proper manner. Just like we read a story, we read a poem, and we feel sympathy towards our characters, towards our narrator speaker, but we can't express that as sympathy in our words. And same thing happened with the poet here. And she feels very much for her mother. She feels very deep sympathy for her mother, but she is unable to express it as sorry, as we human beings, sometimes we feel a lot, but we are unable to express our feelings. So this was all about today's lecture. Hope you will go through the poem once again, and you will understand all these things which we discussed today, and you will try to see why these things have been used, particularly the poetic devices, which are very important as far as the examination of yours is concerned. So with this, I bid you Allah Hafiz, and tomorrow we shall start another poem, and we will come up with another lecture of the new poem, and that will be the tomorrow's lecture. So till then, have a good day, and Allah Hafiz.